As a constitutional law attorney, former senior legal advisor, and personal counsel to President Donald J. Trump, Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Jenna Ellis Show. I'm Jenna Ellis, and we saw yesterday the unprecedented indictment of a former sitting United States president, and finally, the indictment was unsealed. So what exactly is contained in this? How do we break this down legally? My good friend and fellow lawyer, Mike Davis from the Article 3 Project, is going to join me to discuss right after this. With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to your to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you. So joining me now is Mike Davis, attorney and friend, and with the Article 3 Project. So Mike, when you and I both looked at this, and I think everyone across America looked at this indictment finally yesterday when it was unsealed, and the thing that struck me first about this is that it seems like it's just copied and pasted a bunch of the same thing with really no substance. And Alan Bragg, in his press conference, said that that he didn't actually have to specify what underlying crime he was relying on to get to this, ultimately falsifying business records in the first degree. And for those who haven't actually read the indictment, I'll read this. So each of the counts just goes like this. The defendant in the county of New York and elsewhere on or about the date mentioned, with intent to defraud and intent to commit another crime, and that's what's not specified, another crime, and aid and conceal the commission thereof, made and caused a false entry in the business records of an enterprise, namely the Trump Organization. So what do you make of this?
Well, thank you for having me on, Jen. And I would say that the press reports about this indictment were pretty damning for Alvin Bragg, this Soros-funded Manhattan DA. But the actual indictment is even worse for Alvin Bragg because, like you said, Jenna, he's not even making the proper legal allegations here. He said at his news conference he didn't have to under the law. Well, if that's New York law, that you don't have to make legal allegations in an indictment, then that New York case law, that New York statute, whatever law Alvin Bragg thinks he's relying on is unconstitutional under our 14th Amendment to the Constitution. The Due Process Clause commands that these states provide fair notice to defendants under the Due Process Clause. And that means that the defendants have to know what the legal allegations are against them so they can defend themselves against these legal allegations in court. Otherwise, this is like a third world Marxist hellhole banana republic, which is pretty fitting for Alvin Bragg because at the end of the day, he is a George Soros-funded DA.
Yeah, and that obviously makes sense because in any other judicial context, attorneys are required to plead with specificity, whether you're a prosecutor, you're a plaintiff, because defendants in criminal, especially criminal, but also even in civil cases, have to be put on notice of what they're actually defending so that they can prepare and mount a legal defense. And so here, everyone is speculating, Mike, that this is related to potentially the hush money payments and potentially other FEC violations, but nothing that Alvin Bragg has come out with, and he's saying, of course, it doesn't have to, would show any evidence, at least in the pleadings or even any claims, that there is some other underlying crime. And that's how he gets to falsifying a business record in the first degree and a felony. So I want listeners to understand this. The only reason that this is a felony charge, and there's 34 counts, is because he's saying some other crime was occurring that then the falsification of business records tried to cover up. So for example, if I am embezzling from a company, and then I falsify the business records to cover up that embezzlement that in and of itself is a crime, then you could get there potentially. But this now is just, it looks like he's just trying to throw whatever up against the wall to see what sticks. So when does the Trump legal team actually figure out what they're even defending against?
That's a good question. I mean, they should file a motion to dismiss this indictment for lack of specificity, for the sufficiency of the indictment. We should step back, Jenna, and remind your listeners this. Remember, this is in the light most favorable to Alvin Bragg. What he's alleging here is back in 2016, President Trump paid hush money to Stormy Daniels to make an embarrassing affair from 2005 or 2006 go away. That is the allegation most favorable to Bragg. Trump denies that, but that's the allegation. And Trump did this by paying Michael Cohen to pay off this settlement, this nuisance claim. The prosecutor calls it hush money. So at best, they recorded, according to the prosecutor, they miscategorized this in the books in the Trump organization. So at best, this would be a misdemeanor for a records violation, for putting in the books the wrong way in the Trump organization. 2-year statute of limitations that would have expired in 2018. Trump denies this. I still don't see how it would be a misdemeanor, but let's just play along with Bragg's theory, right? And so that's beyond the statute of limitations. So Bragg is trying to apparently bootstrap another crime onto this misdemeanor to make it a felony. Felonies have a 5-year statute of limitations in New York, so I don't even know how this 2016 settlement of a nuisance claim would still be viable in 2023. But what Alvin Bragg has said, or at least leaked in the past, is he's going to use federal election law. He's going to say that Trump made this payment in 2016. This money, it was his own money. It was not campaign money, but he is going to pay this money to Stormy Daniels to make this claim go away to benefit his presidential campaign in 2016. Right? So somehow this is a federal campaign finance violation because Trump did not disclose that he used his own money to pay off this nuisance claim. That is a ridiculous legal theory that was previously rejected by the Manhattan DA at Alvin Bragg's urging when Alvin Bragg worked for the New York Attorney General's office. This legal theory was rejected by the Manhattan U.S. Attorney. This legal theory was rejected by the Federal Election Commission, and this legal theory was rejected by Alvin Bragg himself when he became the DA. Then you had a couple prosecutors who resigned, went public, wrote books, and criticized Alvin Bragg for not prosecuting Trump unethically, I would argue. And so what happened? Alvin Bragg, decides that after he's taken over $1 million and George Soros support from 2 different entities, Alvin Bragg decides apparently that he wants to protect his left flank. So he brings in this Biden Justice Department senior political appointee, this Matthew Colangelo. Matthew Colangelo worked in the number 3's office in the Biden Justice Department, the Associate Attorney General, a very senior level political appointee. This Matthew Colangelo was a lawyer for 7 years for the NAACP. He works for the Obama Justice Department for Eric Holder and Tom Perez in the Civil Rights Division. He was a political appointee there. He was a political appointee for Tom Perez when Tom Perez went to be the labor secretary for Obama. Matthew Colangelo was the chief of staff to the labor secretary, another political appointee. When Tom Perez went to be the DNC chair, the Democrat National Committee chair, this Matthew Colangelo went to the Obama White House and was a politically appointed economic advisor to Obama. When Trump won, Colangelo went to the Democrat New York Attorney General's office, again as a political appointee. He was essentially hired in this new position they created to get Trump. And Matthew Colangelo brought dozens of lawsuits against President Trump and the Trump administration. He had investigated Trump's finances. He investigated the Trump Foundation. And then when Obama won, Colangelo went in as the acting number 3 on the parachute team at the Justice Department under Merrick Garland before becoming the number 2 to the number 3, Vanita Gupta, a radical left-wing political activist who's the Associate Attorney General now. This is the office, the Associate Attorney General's office with Vanita Gupta and Matthew Colangelo. This is the office that worked with the Civil Rights Division, Kristen Clark, the head of the Civil Rights Division for Biden, where they have sicked the Biden Justice Department, including the FBI, after Christians praying outside of abortion clinics while giving amnesty to abortion industry paid activists who are terrorizing Catholic churches, crisis pregnancy centers, and Supreme Court justices and their families in their homes. This Matthew Colangelo is the critical link between Biden, the Biden Justice Department, and Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. This is the hitman who Biden sent to get Trump.
Wow. And so this is so clearly political. And with that background as well, there's even more evidence to show what the ties are to Alvin Bragg and what the motivations are here. And, we've been saying since the beginning of this possible indictment coming down that this is weaponization of government. And this is basically just a campaign promise to get Trump that is being fulfilled. Do you anticipate that the Trump legal team will take any of this history and include that as part of a motion to dismiss, or even just a separate one on separate grounds, to say that this is a malicious prosecution and should be dismissed on the merits of that whole argument?
Well, they should, and I anticipate they will. I've actually been quite impressed with his defense team up in Manhattan. And I would say this: here's the problem, Jenna. As you know, these courts in these blue states have been overtaken by Democrat activists. These prosecutors are Democrat activists. We haven't had a Republican governor in New York for like 17 years. I think George Pataki was the last Republican governor in New York. These Manhattan judges are part of the Democrat machine in New York City. These appellate judges in New York are largely Democrat appointed. This DA is a Soros-funded DA. I mean, let's just give an example of what this Soros-funded DA did, this Alvin Bragg did. He filed a motion for Trump to have for the judge to put a gag order on Trump, a gag order. So President Trump can't speak about the political charges against him while he's running for president of the United States. As you know, Jenna, the gag orders protect defendants' Sixth Amendment rights to a fair trial. Defendant. It doesn't there's no Sixth Amendment right for the government to have a fair trial. It's for the defendants to protect them from government. And these defendants have First Amendment rights, even as they're defendants in criminal cases. And so to ask for a gag order from this judge to gag President Trump while they're doing this unprecedented prosecution of a former president and presidential candidates under a legal theory that was rejected so many times that we discussed, including by Bragg himself, it just shows that Bragg, along with this Matthew Colangelo, this hired gun from the Biden Justice Department, are clearly out to get Trump.
Yeah. And this is something that is so frustrating, I think, for the American people that are watching this, is that even if Trump has valid defenses, which we obviously believe that he does, and he puts these forward in a forum and a judicial forum that's been so hijacked by the left and is not going to give him a fair hearing, then what do you do in that instance? I mean, we've seen that with the January 6th defendants that were essentially coerced and railroaded into plea deals. I have friends who were there, have been on this show, including Brandon Strack, who didn't do anything wrong, but he didn't want to go forward in an environment where likely he would have ended up serving prison time, and so took a plea agreement. And that has completely changed his life over the last several years when he didn't even go inside the Capitol. He was there as a journalist. I mean, and so all of these things, the weaponization of government on so many levels, and in so many instances, I mean, you even talk about the licensing professions. Like there's a friend of mine in Texas I was talking to last week who has a friend who was a doctor who was basically the equivalent of disbarred in the medical profession, simply because he was prescribing different therapeutics than what the government was telling him to do in the aftermath of COVID. And so, with all of these different things and the pressure that's put on defendants when you know that you're not going to get a fair hearing, and so you end up taking a plea or you end up having to appeal, and you go through all of this. What are the options? I mean, this becomes incredibly frustrating, and we're seeing this not just against President Trump, but against so many Americans.
I mean, this is the problem. As you said, Jenna, our justice system at every level has been politicized and weaponized by leftists. This is not our parents' or grandparents' Democrat Party. These are not liberals who love America and just disagree with conservatives on the best way to get there. These are leftists. These are Marxists. They hate America. They hate due process. They believe in Me Too and politicized and weaponized justice. They hate equality. They believe in equity. They are fanatics, and they will do whatever. They hate free speech. They believe in censorship. They will do whatever it takes through any means to destroy their political opponents. And just think about this. If they can do this to a former president of the United States and potentially a future president of the United States who is a billionaire, just imagine what they can do to the rest of us. This is insane. So what can we do about this? I think there are several things that we can do about this. In New York, I just don't think President Trump's going to get a fair hearing. He doesn't have a fair jury pool. He doesn't have a fair judge. I don't think there's a fair appellate system. I think this DA is clearly biased, and he's showing his bias at every step. But what I think that everyday Americans can do is they can turn out and vote, because elections matter, judges matter, and we see this vividly over the last 2.5 years of the Biden administration with the two systems of justice, where we have the Biden Justice Department, Attorney General Merrick Garland and his deputies like Kristen Clark and Vanita Gupta and this Matthew Colangelo, where they have politicized and weaponized the Justice Department to go after Trump's top aides, Trump's supporters, as we saw, as you just said, on January 6th, people who did not even trespass, people who were just there or having their lives ruined. It is unacceptable. What needs to happen right now with this New York case is House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, who's also running the weaponization subcommittee, the select subcommittee, they need to issue subpoenas right now. They need to issue subpoenas right now for the communications between Alvin Bragg and his team and Matthew Colangelo when he was at the Biden Justice Department. That those need to happen right now. They need to get any and all communications between Bragg and the Justice Department. They need to bring in Colangelo right now and Bragg right now, go up to New York so they can't say that they're disrupting this prosecution. Send House Judiciary Committee investigators up to New York City right now and have depositions of Bragg and Colangelo right now to figure out what the coordination was between the Biden Justice Department and Alvin Bragg's office. There was clearly coordination because
and federal funding apparently as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's federal funding, but there's clearly coordination between the two because Bragg hired this Matthew Colangelo from the number 3's office in the Biden Justice Department. So he didn't just show up at Bragg's door one day and said, I just resigned from the Biden Justice Department. I'm here to help. There was clearly coordination there. So they need to interview both Bragg and Bragg's top aides in his office and then Colangelo and people in the Biden Justice Department to figure out that coordination. And people say, oh, you don't have a right to do that. You can't have congressional oversight over a local DA. Yes, you can. And I can give you 5 reasons. Number one, there's Section 5 of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Again, Congress must ensure that states provide equal protection and due process to Americans in these states. And that's exactly what Congress needs to do here. And it doesn't matter who it is. President Trump deserves equal protection of the law and due process, just like every other American. Remember, he's not above the law. He's not below the law. So that's one way they can look. He talked about federal funding, Jenna. They are using federal funding in the Manhattan DA's office, including on this prosecution of President Trump, this political prosecution that the office previously rejected, that the U.S. attorney previously rejected, that the Federal Election Commission previously rejected, that Alvin Bragg previously rejected. It wasn't until back in December when Bragg hired Colangelo that they decided to revive this zombie case. Why are they spending federal funds on going after Trump instead of going after rapists and murderers and burglars and carjackers in New York City? That violent crime is spiking in New York City because of these left-wing policies. Congress should ask, why are we funding this? Number three, they're inappropriately using federal election law. They're bootstrapping federal election law in a bad reading of federal election law, according to Brad Smith at the Federal Election Commission. They're bootstrapping federal election law to turn, at best, what are misdemeanors into felonies in New York City. That is not permitted under federal election law. That's another way. We talked about the unethical collusion. Let's also talk about how this is a malicious prosecution by Alvin Bragg and this Matthew Colangelo to interfere with the next presidential election. They're trying to take out Biden's chief political rival, Donald Trump, and Biden clearly knew that this Matthew Colangelo was going from his Justice Department to Alvin Bragg's office to do this job. This is a hit by Biden to take out Trump.
This is corruption at the highest levels, and it's absolutely disgusting. It's infuriating, and it's wholly unconstitutional. And you mentioned the bootstrapping of a federal offense potentially into then getting this state level felony. And that was one of two questions I also had about how Bragg's legal theory is really tenuous at best, because there hasn't been a federal crime that has been brought or adjudicated. Trump is not convicted of anything under an FEC violation. So how can they claim in New York State that a federal crime occurred and presume that to then get to a felony?
Well, and then that's the theory that they're leaking to the press over the last several weeks that even got laughed at by the New York Times and the Washington Post. Not exactly MAGA, right? And so maybe that's why Alvin Bragg just decided, you know what, when I do this indictment, I'm just not even going to include the underlying crime. It's just going to be like a potluck. Whatever crime we come up with, we're gonna charge Trump with this. We're not going to put the legal basis in the indictment. And whatever we come up with later, that's what we'll add to our trial. I mean, it's just insanity. This is what you do in third world banana republics. This again, George Soros invested very well in Alvin Bragg because he came up with this legal theory that was laughed at by his office, by the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, by the Federal Election Commission, by Bragg himself, by the New York Times, by the Washington Post. But all of a sudden, they've decided they're going to bring in this Biden Justice Department political appointee, Matthew Colangelo, and get Trump. And the timing is very interesting, Jenna. Look at the timing. House Oversight Chairman James Comer found the smoking gun. He found the bank records just on one set of transactions that showed that the CCP gave the Biden family over $1 million. And instead of talking about that right now, what are we talking about? We're talking about Alvin Bragg and his utterly stupid indictment of President Trump.
Yeah. And this type of novel theory and how they're trying to manipulate laws and be flexible as well. So if they don't plead with specificity, generally what happens is you wait until you know what crimes you're bringing. And I wonder what they said to the grand jury and why the grand jury would have unanimously said, oh, sure, there's some other crime out there that we're going to leave up to you. And that's totally flexible. But we'll just go ahead and return a true bill on 34 counts of something that's so vague and inarticulate. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous, but this is what they're doing in so many other contexts. And, so for example, that, I've been facing complaints from the Colorado bar, and the one that I resolved, again, under a stipulation, because this is a blue state and people can, take that for what it's obviously worth. But they couldn't find anything that I did because I wasn't an attorney of record in any of these cases. And so complaint after complaint was being dismissed. Then they came up with this very novel theory of attorneys who are representing a current client owe a duty of candor to the public. And I mean, that has never, ever been a theory that has been postulated anywhere that I'm aware of, or even I think that the complainants were aware of. And yet, they're trying to then coerce these types of agreements. And then do you think that that's going to be used against Democrat attorneys? Absolutely not. So we have all of these different novel claims that are being used to go after all of the Trump associates and anybody that they can, conservatives in general. I mean, where does this stop?
It doesn't stop until we give them a healthy dose of their own medicine. And I know that two wrongs don't make it right, but it makes it even. And so the only way you're going to stop our country from going over the cliff, we may have already gone over the cliff, but if we don't give the Democrats a healthy dose of their own medicine here, if we don't start having our Republican state attorneys general, our Republican DAs, our Republican prosecutors in places like Texas and Florida and other red states going after Democrats for their real crimes, get creative here. Go after them for their real crimes. There's no shortage of real crimes by the Biden crime family, by George Soros, by Antifa, by BLM, by Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry. There are plenty of crimes. Let's get creative. Let's give them a healthy dose of their own medicine. I call it the dead chicken strategy. When I clerked for Justice Gorsuch, we had lunch with all the other justices, and our lunch with Justice Thomas, Gorsuch's 4 clerks had lunch with all the other justices. This is standard just to get to know all the other justices. When we had lunch with Justice Thomas, who is the greatest man in the history of the United States of America, he talked about growing up on the farm in Georgia. When dogs killed chickens, you wrapped those dead chickens around those dogs' necks. And as those dead chickens rotted around those dogs' necks, they lost the taste for chicken. And so we need to do the same thing to Democrats. We need to start having our state prosecutors, DAs, AGs, bringing criminal charges against Democrats for their real crimes. We need to start having Jenna Ellis file bar complaints against these unethical Democrat attorneys. Jenna, I would love for you to come help us at the Article 3 project, file bar complaints, and help me with lawfare against the Democrats, because, we need to give them a healthy dose of their own medicine, the dead chicken strategy, because this will not stop until the Democrat, again, this is not our parents' Democrat Party. These are leftists. These are Marxists. They only respect power. So if we keep howling to these tactics and say, oh, we're better than this, we can't keep doing this, Republicans need to stop being the string orchestra on the Titanic. Our country is going down. We need to start fighting.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and looking forward to talking with you more about what we can do together at the Article 3 project. And I agree with you that this type of lawfare that the Democrats are perpetuating is continually keeping us on the defensive. And Republicans are largely afraid to go on the offensive because they're afraid of getting sanctioned and of getting, all of these other cases that have been dismissed and all of the other things that a lot of Trump attorneys are facing because they dared to go into a courtroom and represent a sitting U.S. president on a claim that, not what the mainstream media is saying of overturning an election, but challenging the results in the administration of an election, which last time I checked is part of a constitutionally protected right to petition your government for redress of grievances. I mean, this is fundamental lawyering. And yet we have this myth in our society that somehow everyone related to Trump is somehow never going to win a case. He can't mount a defense. He has to now answer these vague and vexatious claims from this ridiculous Soros-funded DA, and we can't do anything about it. Well, we need to, and I think you're right, just stand up and say, we are going to initiate these claims and these complaints that are genuine and they are well-founded. It's not just lawfare. It's actually going after them for crimes and conduct that is antithetical to our U.S. Constitution and ultimately against the law, and not be scared of all of this. And I think that's what's so frustrating to me right now about the Republican Party, is that it seems like they're willing to do some, but then once they get a little slap on the wrist, they just back off and they say, well, okay, sorry, sorry, we'll just go along with what you want. And look at where our country is at.
Yeah. Jenna, when can you start? I would love to have you join the Article 3 project. And I'll tell you, you are spot on. And look, we have to stop being weak and stupid as Republicans. Like, how much have we seen over the last 6 years, what they've done to Trump, what they've done to Trump's top aides, what they've done to Trump's supporters, what they've done to Christians praying outside of abortion clinics, what they've done to parents at school board meetings. This will never stop. What they've done to people at a legal protest on January 6th, you're allowed to protest. They were at a legal protest that got out of control and turned into a riot, and they're trying to claim this is an insurrection, and they're trying to lump them all together and round them all up, while BLM and Antifa and abortion industry activists terrorize our country, while they use COVID lockdowns to keep us in our homes for 3 years, keep us out of our schools, keep us out of our families. You can't see dying grandparents in hospitals. This is insane what the Democrats have done. And look, if it's only illegal to object to presidential elections in third world Marxist hellhole banana republics. As you said, it's protected by the First Amendment. It's also protected by the Electoral Count of 1887. You could object to presidential elections. Hillary still denies that President Trump won the presidential election. Stacey Abrams.
Oh, be careful, because the Colorado bar told me I can't say that, because that's what was it, a reckless misrepresentation, by the way, that Hillary continued. I mean, she just wrote a whole book about it, but be careful on that one.
Well, I'm still licensed in Colorado, so I would love to see someone bring a bar complaint against me, because you know what, I'm going to hire Jenna Ellis to be my attorney to fight it. So,
well, I'm still licensed in Colorado as well, thankfully. So yeah.
Yes, please file a bar complaint against me, because you know what, I've never really cared. Jenna, the nice thing about growing up with red hair is you just get the crap kicked out of your whole life. So you're just so used to it. You just don't give a damn. So I really do not give a damn about what anyone thinks about me, what anyone says about me, or what anyone does to me. I'm not going away.
That's amazing. Well, I'm updating my bio right now, and now it'll be attorney for the Article 3 project. So we'll be working together, and that'll be great.
We would love to have you, Jenna. Love to have you.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for your insight, for your fight and your passion on this, and also your expertise, because we can't just believe the mainstream media headlines, and we also can't back down when the left is trying to throw everything against any one of us that will speak up and will actually fight for our rights and for our Constitution and for civil protections and civil liberties. I mean, these are things that are the foundation of our constitutional republic. And it's the left that claims, you're trying to tear down democracy. Well, look at what they're doing. They're speaking out of both sides of their mouth. And, they're the ones that have claimed, and I did this whole rant yesterday on this show about how, the justice system, this very same one that they want to uphold as so legitimate and completely sacrosanct, and this is completely fair, no political bias whatsoever, is the very same justice system that they have been claiming for years, based on critical theory, is systemically unjust and perverted and racist and all of this other stuff. But when it comes to the political persecutions that they want to perpetrate, somehow everything is totally fine and we can't even object. Otherwise we're just Trump cultists, or, we don't deserve to have bar licenses, or we don't deserve to have, media airtime. I mean, some of these, you and I have talked about the lawsuits against Fox News and Newsmax and some of these other organizations for simply putting up, both sides of an argument. I mean, this is what they're trying to do, is tear down these institutions of freedom of the press, the right to petition the government for redress, freedom of speech, all of these things, free exercise of religion. I mean, literally everything that our First Amendment and the rest of the Constitution protects, including due process. So I'm angry about it. I'm glad you're angry about it. And let's go, kick some butt together.
Yeah, nothing says democracy like indicting your political opponent, and nothing screams judicial independence like trying to kill a Supreme Court justice and their family in their homes.
Yeah, it's remarkably absurd. Well, Mike Davis, Article 3 Project, really appreciate your insights today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jenna.
With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to your to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you.
Have you ever picked up a towel set because it felt so soft in the store, but then when you leave and you go to use it, it's not really that absorbent? It's basically a towel that is leaving you out to dry. That's why MyPillow has developed the MyPillow towels, towels that actually work. I know, it's totally mind-blowing. Towels that actually dry you. Their 6-piece towel set includes 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths. They come in a variety of colors. I have the sage green and the white. I love them. And right now you can receive a 6-piece set for only $39.98 with promo code Jenna. That's JENNA. So go to mypillow.com right now and click on the radio listeners special. MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty and have a 60-day money-back guarantee. So to receive this amazing offer on the 6-piece towel set of MyPillow towels, just go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener special, and enter promo code Jenna, that's JENNA, or call 1-800-564-8475. That's mypillow.com, promo code Jenna.